Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode, and today we haven't really got a theme. We're just going to round up this year, chat about what's going on right now and what's coming next. But before we get onto that, thank you to everyone who's been sharing the work they've been doing for the challenges on social media. Keep them coming. We love seeing what you're doing. And just on a side note, we're on Posevember as we record this, and I've been looking at Joe Brown's Lumpy Ladies. Have you seen those?
No.
Oh, they are so funny. They're blind contour drawings of like nude women.
Yeah.
And they're called Lumpy Ladies, and she puts them in all sorts of different settings. I honestly, you've got to go and check them out. I had to mention them because they really caught my eye. Also,
sounds like she's been drawing me.
No, it sounds like she's been drawing real women that actually haven't been airbrushed and all the rest of it. Anyway, also a huge thank you to our latest Ko-fi supporters. Your support shows us that you like what we do and you'd like us to continue. And we're going to thank you personally at the end of the show.
Yeah, and finally, we want to thank our sponsor, Evolve. Evolve can teach you how to paint a realism style, and that's to a professional level in a year or less, and for a fraction of the price of art school, because that costs a blooming fortune. Not only do they provide all the lessons and support online, but they'll also send you all the materials you need. So basically, you haven't got to buy anything else. And you can watch a free webinar. When I say webinar, it's basically a tutorial. So even if you don't want to do the course, it's worth going and having a watch. And you can find that at kickingthecreatives.com/Evolve webinar. Or if you want to hear more about the Evolve program, go back and listen to episodes 67 and 73. Anyway, what is new with you?
Well, I suppose I ought to start with why we missed an episode, and I've got to be brief about this because otherwise I will start crying. We don't want that on the podcast. So the reason we missed an episode is because we very sadly and unexpectedly lost our dog. And any listeners who have been listening to us for, as long as we've been doing this will know I have a Labrador called Sherlock, and you often hear him tiptoeing through the room and jumping through the dog flap and eating his dinner. So we lost him. So obviously I was not in a good place, and I had to wait until I could string a sentence together without actually bawling my eyes out. So I can't talk any more about it because I don't want to go down that route. But yes, I just felt like I needed to explain why we missed an episode. Anyway, on the art front, my painting, that is going really well. And we spoke briefly, didn't we? Well, not briefly. We had a good old chat a couple of days ago, and I was showing you my cupcake, or fairy cake as we call them in the UK. And it's quite a big one, isn't it, Tara? It's a big...
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, big painting, cropped right into this cake. And I'm so enjoying it. I really am. It's been a bit of a therapy recently, obviously, having this, this to sink my teeth into. But anyone who listened to perhaps the last episode might remember that I said that I was tackling it a bit in a different way, in that I'm doing all of the underlayers and the first mid layer in acrylics, which obviously is new for me because I used to work solely with oils from back to front, and I've been recently using acrylics to do the underpainting, the tonal value, the tonal painting, and then the initial color painting. And it's quite scary because it's basically when you do that, it looks like a cartoon. It's as flat as a pancake, and it just doesn't have any depth really, and it's very scrappy because obviously acrylic's harder to blend. So you had to get my head around that a little bit, and then obviously what I do after that is go over with my second mid layer with oils, and then the final layer with oils. So it's basically 2 layers of acrylic and 2 of oil. You can do it that way. You can't do it the other way around. You can't do acrylic over oil, but you can do oil over acrylic. And gosh, it's been such an eye-opener doing it this way, because obviously I'm not having to wait for things to dry before I go in for the next layer. I mean, I am on the oil layers now, so that's how far I've got. I'm now on the penultimate layer, I guess. And it's just been really, really much quicker process to get to this point. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not having to worry about...
Yeah, I bet you wish you'd tried it years ago, don't you?
I knew you could do it, but I just didn't like how the acrylics look, because I'm used to blending and all the rest of it. And but the other thing as well is I've kind of found this size that I really, really love. So normally my paintings are fairly... Well, they're not small, but they're sort of, I don't know, 40 by 50 centimetres, right? Is that right? Yeah, it is. So they're about that on average. So my donuts, for instance, I think they were 40 by 50 centimetres. This one is about a metre, I think, or 90 centimetres by...
Doesn't look that when you showed me. It doesn't look quite that big.
No, it's not quite a metre. I think it's 90 centimetres by something. I can't remember. But it's big. And I've only ever done one bigger than that, and that was obviously those big marbles I did. But I have discovered I really enjoy working at that size. But what's really interesting is the brush I've been using. When we spoke, we were FaceTiming, weren't we, a couple of days ago? And I was like, guess what brush I'm using? And I was waggling this decorator's paintbrush, at the screen. Basically, that's what I've been using, really. The majority of this painting so far has been with this sort of, what would you say, 2 inch, about a 3 inch.
It's hard to tell on screen.
1, 2, 3. Maybe about a 2.5 inch paintbrush, something like that, which is, no, it's got to be more than that. But it's a decorator's brush, really, not one for an artist. Obviously, that's for the
I can't believe you're using that.
I know, it's amazing. But of course, I've got this great big dollop of cream on the top, so I'm using these great big broad sweeps to get the basic, the majority of that down. And then, of course, I'm going in with smaller brushes, but of course, they're nowhere near the size small brushes I would normally use. They're sort of an inch, you know what I mean? So, but I'm loving it. It's a completely different way of working, but it's still very much...
That should be a social media post. You should show your brushes that you're using this time.
For obvious reasons. Well, you see,
you haven't been on.
I have not been on social media at all, apart from on our group, which I didn't go on for a bit either, because I just didn't want to do anything. But yeah, the plan was, when I did this cake, I was going to share a whole process thing, and I was going to do things like that. But obviously, with what happened, it just totally threw me, and I was going in there and painting and just to not think, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I was not in the frame of mind to do any kind of posts like that, really. I probably will. Yeah. But usually if something's going on, the last place I'll be is social media. But yeah, so I'm loving that. It's a completely different way of working. But what I am obviously still doing is very, very much my own style. So there's nothing about the finished result when I finished it that won't be mine. It's my style. It's just I've got there in a slightly different way. So yeah, that's what's new with me. What about you? What's new with you?
Well, as you know, I spent a very long weekend in London at a Comic-Con event. I had a table there, and it's one of those things when you do these events, you were kind of... Kevin was laughing at me because the week before I went on the Friday, you had to set up on the Friday night, but that week I was packing my case, but over the entire week. So I'd go get the prints ready to go, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, I need that as well. Let's go wrap that up. And I did it all in bits.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it like that, because I think I just kept on thinking, yeah, I'd got a list and everything I was going to take, but I just sort of broke it down. So then I got there on the Friday. Oh, it was a knackering journey. It was 3 trains. I think it took about 2.5 hours. But I got this massive suitcase. Well, it's massive for me, bloody heavy, that I could just about swing on the train. And then I pulled along, and I had a rucksack on as well. So I had a rucksack with all my clothes and stuff in. So I stayed in a hotel Friday, Saturday and Sunday night. So I set up there, and I got there, and luckily there was a guy. I found my table, and there was a guy next to me. I go, "Oh, hi, I'm your neighbour." And then we introduced ourselves, and he was lovely. He was Stu, and he was telling me he'd got Viking ancestry in his DNA, and he looked like Stu the Viking.
I believe we've all got Viking in us.
Probably have. But he did look like a Viking. So, yeah, and I was so glad that I'd immediately met someone. Because then, you're going to be all right, because you got someone who you can look after each other's stuff. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, set up, went back to my hotel. Of course, you're in a hotel, and I didn't realise, but my hotel did not have an elevator, a lift. So, which was fine when I hadn't got my suitcase, but when I had, there's no way that was going upstairs. So couldn't sleep, could I? Because you know what it's like when you're in this different place. Yeah. And I think I went and got myself, a salad from Tesco and ate in my room because there was no restaurant or anything. So didn't sleep, got up the next day, went to do the stand, and literally nobody was interested. Because the main bit was all downstairs, and they'd put all the artists upstairs. So we got much less footfall. And the footfall we got was because they have the young adult reading sort of section upstairs. They had some authors doing talks, but the majority of the main Comic-Con event was downstairs. So you'd get people coming by, but they were only interested in fan art, the majority of them, which is basically when people are selling things with, say, Disney characters, or they've done drawings of Disney characters, or they've done drawings of Doctor Who elements and put them in our art, which is not strictly legal. But yeah, they were selling prints of those, but that's what people wanted. And so the majority of people just walk straight past without looking, which was pretty do you know what I mean?
Yeah, soul destroying, I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, pretty soul destroying. And so if I'd have had my suitcase with me, because I'd left that at the hotel empty, I'd have probably packed up and not come back on the Sunday. But I thought, oh God, it's not worth going back and fetching it and whatever. I'll just come. So Sunday, I think I sold 3 prints, I think, that day, 3 small prints. And then the next day, I basically went in thinking I ain't going to sell anything. I just, was kind of resigned to the fact.
Yeah.
Not in a miserable way, but I just knew what it was going to be like. People didn't want what I'd got. So, yeah, basically the same thing happened. I think I sold 1 print, 1 big print that day. And then quite near the end of that day, a guy came up, and I had 2 original paintings on display because I couldn't really fit many in my suitcase. I had some options below the desk, but I couldn't fit them framed or anything like that. And he was interested in originals. And so he was sort of tempted. I could tell he almost bought 1, but he said, "Oh, I'm not quite sure about that bit." But then he said, "Oh, I really might want 3." So basically, he took my card and everything, but I haven't heard anything. So what I've learned is Comic-Cons are not for me. Basically.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. I don't think it's a reflection on your work. I think it's just a reflection on whether it was the right place for it to be, but you don't know until you try. Did you lose out on much? Because obviously I know you sold a few prints, but did that anywhere near cover your costs? I don't suppose it did.
No, because I was
maybe
in a
the train fare.
Yeah, it probably just about didn't. See, the table was 90 quid, and then I had a hotel, but luckily I paid for a few nights in my hotel with our Tesco vouchers, because you could get them, but you got 3 times as much. So I'd done that, but no, didn't anywhere near. But the weird thing is, the woman next to me was selling Disney. She'd drawn Disney characters basically, and that type of thing. So cutesy characters, and she was selling a lot. But of course, it's blooming illegal.
Well, this is what I don't get. I mean, we kind of touched on this, didn't we, when we spoke a few days ago, and the blurriness of it all. I mean, basically what these people are doing are copying someone else's design and doing it well enough that they can sell it. It's not their design. It's not an original piece by them. It's just a Disney character that they've drawn that probably hundreds of other people within a mile radius could do. It's just that they don't. So
yeah, I mean, I could do it. You could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But would I? No, because it's not. I don't think it's morally right to do that for the people that spend that amount of time working on a project to create those characters, and then they've got other people kind of making money off the back of it just by copying. And I don't think it should be allowed in Comic-Con, really, unless you're
I don't think so either.
I just find it just odd that anyone would want to earn money doing that, because it doesn't sit well with me. And it doesn't make sense to me that there you are with your own original designs, your own paintings, and your own prints that have come from your head and are really quirky and unique. And yet they'll walk past yours and buy a My Little Pony. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
See, Stu next to me, Stu the Viking, he did wood burning, and he also did fan art of like Doctor Who, Star Wars, that sort of thing, which again is not strictly legal, but at least he was doing one-offs. These would take him hours to make these things. And say, again, that's not strictly, but he's making one-off pieces, whereas the other girl was selling prints of the drawing she's done. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with drawing those characters if you're practicing or you just like drawing them.
Oh, yeah.
I think
you're doing them for your grandchild's wall or something.
Of course. Yeah, but it's just when you're profiting, from, especially if you're not mass producing, but if you're producing multiples, as well.
I mean,
I know
it's the same as when I did those Coke bottles and the crushed Coke can. It was always in my head. I need to be a bit careful here because I don't want it to be because it's Coke that it's. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We don't want to get in trouble for it,
I don't want to get in trouble for copyright at all. And it can be just the logo that can be a problem. So it doesn't even need, it can just be that if you're doing a logo. I think it's perhaps different if you're doing, say, an interior, or like you do a landscape, but an interior, like a painting of interior, and there's a few things dotted around, and you've got the, I don't know,
the Apple Mac computer with the logo on.
Yeah, or exactly things like that. Yeah. Then I don't think that's a problem at all because you're not focusing in on that. You've made a painting, and you know that those things exist in a kitchen or a lounge or whatever, and they have logos on them, and that's it. You're not really focusing on that. That's just a thing. That I think is different. I don't think you'd get in trouble for that. But if you are doing is focusing in on that thing or taking the logo from that thing and using that as the focus, I think that's when it becomes a problem. And that's why when I did two great big, one painting with two big Coke bottles held up to the sky with big colourful straws. But I was very mindful of the fact that they are Coke. And I didn't want to get the entire label in because I didn't want to write the words Coke on them because I didn't want to get into any trouble. It's very obvious what it is. Yeah. But it's not obvious. It could be Tesco Coke. They all have the same colour label at the end of the day. So I think it's quite good because it means that everyone knows what it is, but I haven't focused on that. And the same when it came to the crushed Coke can I did. In fact, that was one of their, was it caffeine free? So it was gold, it wasn't the red, but it still had obviously the Coke, the classic Coke logo on it. And because the can was crushed, you could only see part of the letters, so you couldn't really tell. If you didn't know what it was in your head, you wouldn't be able to tell what it said. So it's kind of things like that. It's just being mindful. But I just don't understand how that's if it's not strictly legal, how they get away with it, I don't know. But anyway,
I think they're too small to. It's probably too small to worry about, you know.
Yeah. I know what you mean, but so basically, you won't be doing a Comic-Con again. What's the plan then? What's next? Have you got any other things on your list of things to try?
Tell me your plan. You tell me your plan, since I've just told you about my Comic-Con disaster.
Well, obviously. So
do we do a roundup? Let's do a roundup of what you've learned this year. Okay,
right. Anyone who listens to this podcast regularly will know that I had the mother of all art blocks, and I'm not going to delve into too much of that because you're probably bored of it if you've listened before. But generally, I had a big art block, and it lasted about 4 months. It was awful. I have had art blocks in the past, but this one was something else. It was like a brick wall, and I just hit this brick wall and just couldn't get through it. To the point where I actually thought, I'm never going to paint again. I'm just going to turn the art studio into a gym. That's how bad it was.
And then never use the gym.
And then never use the gym, yeah. Honestly, it was, well, you know what it was like. It was awful. So I suddenly went from that to practically skipping to my easel thinking, I can't wait to start. And going from having zero idea of what to paint to having an entire series already in the queue, you know.
Have you? So, you got a whole series?
Oh, my series is going to be cake. Or various forms of.
Well, I figured it was edible, yeah.
Yeah, because, I've done loads of wine bottles before, lots of glass, marbles, that kind of thing. And I just suddenly have this thing for cake. I mean, after those donuts, I just enjoy doing that so much. And I think you can tell when you look at the painting, you're like, oh yeah, you can tell that's actually, I've got an interesting story about the donuts.
Right.
So the donuts, obviously, when I painted the donuts, I said to you, didn't I, that I had this whole 2 stories. Either, I painted donuts because I like the idea of painting donuts, or the other story was going to be this whole, those sort of pretentious artist kind of, it means this and it means that.
Yeah.
Well, when Sherlock passed away, all of a sudden, I just could not bear the idea of selling those donuts because I realised because I realised it was the last painting I'd painted with him, basically with me while I was painting it, because he was always with me when I painted. And I realised that the top donut that has literally been broken open and all the insides are falling out is a self-portrait of how I was feeling.
Oh.
And I'm like, I can't get rid of it. That's basically now a self-portrait, and it's the last time I painted with him.
Self-portrait as a donut.
So yeah,
I've always thought you were a bit of a donut, to be perfectly honest.
And funny enough, I actually, it was really weird because I don't know if some people believe in the universe telling you something, I don't know, but I called this, it was obviously before Sherlock passed away. So yeah, like I say, it was the last painting I did with him with me. And I remember finishing it and I called it Tipping Point. And tipping point basically means a point in your life or a point in time where suddenly anything can change. So things are about to change. And I guess with the donuts, they were basically at that. They were all piled up on top of each other. There was so much jam. It was just spilling everywhere. And it only took a bit more for the rest of it to just spill out and the whole lot to topple over. Hence the name Tipping Point. But actually, tipping point, it means a point in time where things are about to change, for a dramatically change. And of course, I painted the donuts, and a dramatic change in my life happened, and I became the top donut. So I immediately took it off my website for sale. It's still on my website, but I had to have it. I thought, I can't sell that now. I just can't,
right.
Because it just means the last times I was with Sherlock. So yeah, it's really weird how that worked. But the cake, obviously, I started as Sherlock was with me, but I haven't, I've been, and it was really funny because I was feeling so sad when I was working on it, and yet you couldn't get a more cheerful looking painting, could you, than this great big
that's true.
cupcake thing. It was really strange, but yeah. And there's a lovely big shiny strawberry on the top, which I was really getting to my teeth into. But yeah, so basically, once I'd done the donuts, then I obviously then that happened with Sherlock, and I sort of felt awful. But I already had this other one started, and I suppose it could have gone two ways. I could have just backed right off and had another complete meltdown again and not been able to paint. But weirdly, it had the opposite effect, and it made me want to. And already I know what's coming after this cupcake. So it's really weird to go from no idea what to paint to so many ideas. I just don't know how I'm going to get to them fast enough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I suppose what I've learnt from that is that it does not matter how much you feel you have sunk to the deepest abyss of art block ever. That does not mean that you're going to stay there. And it does not mean that you are never going to paint again or you can't paint. It doesn't. It means nothing of the sort, actually, because it was like going from a Tesco value battery to a Duracell Max or whatever. And it was when I started to come out of it happened quite quickly. So yeah, if I could tell anyone, my lesson from that is don't despair. You'll get over it. Do what I did. Step back. Allow yourself that time you need to get those brushes calling you back, I guess. And hopefully my story will be your story where you just, buzzing again.
Good.
So that was my main lesson from this year was that. What about you? What have you learned from this year?
Well, this year has actually been inspired by, a lot of it has been inspired by one of our podcast guests, Megan Orman. I did listen to you actually, didn't I? Episode 132. She reached out to us and she said that she'd got a book out and she'd be interested in coming on as a podcast guest, and she'd happily send us a book if we'd like to read it, and find out more. So I read it, and the book was called Try It and See. And essentially, this is what my year has been: try it and see. So basically, what she was saying in this book was that artists and creators want to know the outcome without trying something. They want to know by researching and seeing who's done it, has it worked for them, but you never actually know it until you try it yourself. So my experience, say both me and you went to a gallery and we put our work in there.
Yeah.
You could sell tons of it, I could sell none, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I couldn't ask for your advice on selling in that gallery because your advice wouldn't apply to me, essentially. So this is what she's saying. So basically, I decided that I was going to go along with this advice of try it and see. And I've done things that I would never have done before, basically. So I've done 3 in-person events, including I just told you about the Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I would never have done that. Years ago, I always said, God, I'd never do like one of those art and craft fairs. Oh, I would hate it, So I did them, didn't I? I went and did those. Didn't work for me. So I tried it and I could see that those are not going to work for me. But if I hadn't done that, I'd always be thinking, what would happen if I went to one of those? So I'm glad I did it. And I realised I'm very, very awkward in that selling environment like that, when you're straight.
I think when you're trying to sell your own stuff, I think if you tried to sell mine and I tried to sell yours, we'd be a lot better.
Yeah, I think we'd be better. I think I'd be better, but I still don't think I'd be particularly comfortable. I'm absolutely fine. So I can talk to the person next to me and chat away and stuff like that. But it's just when you're trying to actually, and the really difficult thing is, so you get someone come by, but you don't want to say something to put them off. Do you know what I mean? And move them on. And it's knowing quite what to do, but apparently you get better at that. But anyway, so basically I think they were a complete wrong audience for my work. But yeah, I tried it. And also another thing I tried, and this was actually something I'd been wanting to try for about a year. Well, not wanting to. There was a guy who'd sold a book, and it was all about trying this, what he called a free print offer. So you would offer a very small print, free plus postage. So and then you'd run the ad, but then you'd try and upsell people. So you'd say, oh, instead of this small print, would you rather have the larger one for like £10? So, and you were just trying to cover your costs for the advertising and then get their email on your mailing list. So then you could tell them about other stuff you had going on, new work you'd got, and maybe eventually they'd buy, a bigger piece or an original. And I'd been thinking about doing this for about a year. But I'd done that thing again of, will this work? Looking at other people, did it work for them? Do you know what I mean? I just didn't want to try it myself. I was scared to do it. So eventually I did that as well. And also that didn't work for me. Well, I say it didn't work for me. To be honest, I didn't quite break even. So I came out at a slight loss. But what I did learn from that is I learned all about Facebook advertising, and I'm definitely going to use Facebook advertising again, but I'm going to use it slightly differently, I think, because I've been sort of researching that a little bit more. And what I'll probably try is doing something like a prize draw to get leads.
Yeah.
So I'll get people to try and enter a prize draw via a Facebook ad and try and get leads. And what you're supposed to do apparently is, so I've got my new dog prints I've just done. So I might say, okay, enter the prize draw to win 5 prints, graffiti style prints of dogs. So they enter, and then obviously you pick a winner at a certain time. But then what you do then is to all the other people that entered, then you go, I'm really sorry, you haven't won, but I want to offer you a runners-up prize, and that's to give you 50% off.
Such a good idea, because then it gives them.
So you're giving them a discount.
You're giving someone a reason to continue to be interested.
Yeah, exactly. So and also hopefully you get a fair sale, and once they can see your stuff and hold it in their hands, and they think, okay, she's genuine. She sent the stuff like she said she would, and it's good quality. Then who knows? They might buy future stuff.
Yeah.
So my year has basically been try it and see.
And it's better to try and it doesn't work than not to try at all and wonder whether it would have done, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I always say just keep throwing sticks in the air and eventually something will get caught in a cobweb. Do you know what I mean? It's just you just have to keep throwing them in the air. The problem is when you don't throw any in the air, nothing's going to stick, is it?
Yeah, you've automatically failed, haven't you, if you don't try?
Yeah. So what's going to be your goal then for your art next year?
Okay, so I have a list. Is that all right? Or do you want to do your goals?
No, I want to hear what you...
Oh, okay. So my goal, the first is run some more ads using Facebook. I'm not going to do that until after Christmas because I think advertising gets really expensive around this time because everybody's doing Black Friday sales and Christmas sales.
Yeah.
So I think the price goes up of doing it. So, and like I said, I will do probably some lead generating ads with an option to win a set of prints. Yeah. Whether it will work or not, I don't know, do I? But, I'm not going to spend a fortune, but just enough to try it out. I'm also going to try influencer marketing, which is where you approach influencers on, like I say, Instagram or Facebook, and then you offer them something in return for somehow sharing your work. And I was thinking I might ask some to do a print giveaway again. Yeah. But I have reached out to some and got no response. So I'm going to go for smaller influencers. So I was
go for me. I'll do a TikTok video. I've got 13,500 people, so you never know. One of them might. I'll show off.
You could do it for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't need anything. Don't have to pay me or anything.
Free prints.
Just honestly, I would be delighted to do that for you.
Okay.
Of course.
Thank you.
But I'm surprised you didn't ask me already. I just haven't thought about it until you said. But
well,
I'm not an influencer by any means, and I don't know whether my audience is the right one. But you just don't know, do you? You just don't know.
No, I was kind of looking at sort of music / goth, that sort of a little bit grunge sort of influencer, maybe. I'm not saying that is where my market is, but So, because some of the people which is really weird, because when I've been at these in-person things, and one of the good things about in-person thing is you can at least see who actually likes your work.
Yeah.
You can see what type of person they are. And it's very odd because the people like that seem to like my work are women of, say, between 40 and 60.
Yeah.
Which you probably wouldn't have thought. Well, I wouldn't have thought. No. And then also people who are kind of a bit alternative. So they might have coloured hair, or they might have like the goth t-shirt or the dyed goth hair.
Well, maybe I'll dye my hair pink when I'm influencing.
Yeah, that would be good. But yeah, so there's a girl on Instagram I have thought about approaching, but I'm not quite sure because I think she's not in the UK or one of the English-speaking countries, even though she speaks English. So I'm not quite sure, but she's got a small following, but she gets loads of engagement, so she gets tons of comments. So I was thinking about reaching out to people like that, basically, and just see if they'll share. And then also, I've got some more things. I'm going to experiment with an art idea to develop my paintings. Now, I was telling you, and I think we need to do it. I've got an idea for a podcast, but I'll tell you about that afterwards.
Okay.
But I had this idea. You know when you get a sudden epiphany about your work? And this was ages ago. I'd been thinking about doing something on fears and phobias and stuff like that and introducing that into my work. But I couldn't think how to bring it in. I'd got this idea of the worries, these little worry creatures, but it wasn't quite fitting together. And anyway, I thought, oh, I know how I can do it. This sudden thing. So I might try that out.
And are you going to share that? Or?
Oh, well, I've been looking at the work of Jean-Michel, I can never spell his name, Basquiat.
Yeah.
I've probably got it wrong. But, and I kind of like the way that it's very grungy. And I'm thinking about maybe bringing in some grunge around a face and some writing and that sort of thing.
It's always such a nice feeling, isn't it, when you're like, oh, I really can't wait to try that.
Yeah, but it's drifted because I thought of it a while back and then I was busy. Yeah.
You need to bring yourself back there. And I think that's exactly what happened with me when I went through that art block. I think I'd been doing the same sort of things for quite a long time, maybe like the bottles and I still like doing all that, of course. But I was doing it in the same way and the same sizes and similar fashion. And I think sometimes a challenge or a new idea is all you need to get your juices flowing again, you know. I've never done I've never drawn cakes before, but I'm loving doing it. And just trying the acrylic and you know, just trying things in a different way can really be the difference between you getting in a bit of a rut and actually evolving instead.
Yeah, I think the difficulty I have with this is I constantly kind of want to evolve. But then sometimes you don't like how it's evolving. It's a real difficult balance, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose then you just you realise, oh, actually, I'm not really loving this. Let me try this instead.
Yeah, I guess you keep having to push it in slightly different directions. Sort of try and keep your core. But
if you think about where you are now, I mean, you're only where you are now with your work, and it only looks like it does now because of all the different things you tried before. Yeah. And didn't like. Because I remember you saying to me, I think because you used to do all your doodles and things like that, which were great. And then I really quite like the writing bit. And then you went on to your initial, you know, paintings of the faces and you did a bigger eye and that sort of caught on, but you didn't like various other elements. And you were like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Might try it like this. And it's only because of the things you don't like that you found what you do. And I think that's just how it continues, isn't it?
Yeah, I've just got to keep pushing it. A couple more things anyway, goals for next year. Approach some more galleries. I don't want to approach many, but I've kind of approached one, a local one, but they were in the process of changing things, but he liked my work. So this was just online, I did it. So I got to send out a message today actually, just to see if because he was going to put together a mailing list and put me on it. and I haven't
Right.
heard anything. So I just need to make sure he hasn't forgotten or anything. And then also, I think we say this, we say this every 6 months probably. I really need to work on my social media.
Yeah.
Because I was actually looking back at it the other day, and I've got this folder when I was really going mad on social media and determined to make tons. And I looked through it, and I think there's hardly any of me in it.
Yeah. People like
Do you know what I mean?
like to know the face behind the art, don't they?
Yeah, and because it's much easier making stuff without you in it, because you haven't got to comb your hair and put your makeup on your red nose, and do you know what I mean? So yeah, I need to do that.
Maybe you need to create an alter ego like I did, so you can just stick a wig on.
Yeah.
Try being someone else completely.
Yeah. Well, I could get myself a steampunk hat. I've got the goggles.
Yeah, because you draw a lot of people wearing steampunk hats, don't you, and goggles. Maybe you could dress up. Maybe you could dress up as one of your pick one of your paintings and dress up as that one.
Well, I have actually got an idea a bit like that I haven't done yet, but yeah,
and say, I wonder where I found my inspiration for this one. And you're wearing the same hat and the same goggles. I think with social media, I think it's easy to just share your art. You know,
really
here's
easy.
a painting I've just finished. Oh, what shall I call this painting today? And all the stuff that everyone does. And then there was this weird, and I don't know why it worked, but there's this weird phase where people just spun around with their painting. Do you know what I mean?
I think they still do.
They still do. And I just find that a bit strange. I'm like, well, why?
Well, I did it once, and they do it because they know that gets a lot of views. That's why they do it, because Instagram obviously was for some reason promoting that. I don't know why, but I did one once, and it got loads of views, and you think, this is nothing. This is terrible.
It's just weird, isn't it? Yeah. I think thinking outside of the box with social media is where I think it's more, it's quite important to stand out, and it's finding a way to stand out from other people posting. And I do think artists do have a bit of a habit of just posting their art, and actually I think a lot of people really, really want to know the process behind the art. I mean, you don't want to share the entire thing with the world. Of course you don't, because you'd be forever trying to set up cameras otherwise. Do you know what I mean? It'd be a nightmare. But sharing what gave you the idea, but also not necessarily sharing it in a post where you're just writing, I've got my idea of this. Maybe you can just be walking your dog around the woods and talking about it, and then they're hearing about it, but they're also getting to see a little bit of your surroundings and your daily life, that kind of thing. It's getting people to know you a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast. It's very good, actually, if you want to have a listen. It's called the Art Marketing Podcast. And they were saying, basically, you need to let people know about, not forget your art, totally forget your art. People need to know about you. They want to know about you. Because if you were going to a party or something, or you just started chatting to someone on a train, you'd perhaps talk about your hobbies or whatever. And so he's saying, you need to, and I say this to artists, and he said, and they say, well, I haven't got anything. And I thought exactly the same. It's like, I haven't got any other hobbies. Have you got any other hobbies?
No, you've said it. Got lots of other interests.
Well, interest as in? Go on.
I mean, I love writing and things like that, but I don't do it.
No, exactly. Well, I like reading a good sci-fi.
Yeah, but the time, if you're an artist, the time you've got to do those things goes into your art, doesn't it? You can't. Yeah, you can't be interested in everything and do everything. You'd never do anything well otherwise, would you?
But the reason he said is that if you say, I don't know, think of a topic you might be really interested in. I don't know. Say you also love sewing. I don't love sewing.
No.
But say you were into sewing, for example, and then you just showed yourself doing a bit of sewing, or you were really into playing tennis and you showed yourself playing tennis just in, the odd post. He said the reason that would work is because then other people who are interested in sewing or tennis, Instagram picks up the keywords and the algorithm, and I think, this person likes tennis, so I'm going to show it to other people who like tennis. And the other people who like tennis then feel that they've got an affinity with you and then are more likely to look and be interested in your art.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I could show some posts of me doing my exercises. Because the one thing I do is I do daily exercise at the moment, more so now because since Sherlock passed away, those Apple Watches. Well, I've got one, and it's all of a sudden about 4 or 5 days afterwards, it just came up and said, "We have noticed a significant change in your activity level." And you need to get up and exercise. And of course, I'm not walking every day.
Yeah.
So I used to walk every day, and every other day I'd go on the cross trainer. So I thought, actually, now I need to exercise every day, and maybe just not so much at weekends, but because otherwise I'm just going to be static. Because obviously, being an artist, you just stand there and paint or sit or whatever. And obviously in my daytime job, I sit. So unless I actively, for want of a better word, find an activity to do, I'm not going to do it. And it's not like I love going down and doing my exercises. I don't, because I find it a bit tedious. But at the end of the day, it's something I need to do because I want to stay healthy. I don't want to be an unhealthy artist. I want to be a healthy artist. So, yeah, that could be a thing. And funny enough, on one of my TikTok videos, I did a thing sharing me on a exercise bike thing, my cross trainer basically. But what I did to make it a bit different is I strapped two balloons full of water around my neck, and put a t-shirt over the top. So when I was bouncing up and down on this,
oh my God!
But I was bouncing up and down on this cross trainer. These balloons were going up and down. I mean, you could tell what they were, but I thought it was quite amusing. I don't know if anyone else did, but it's just trying to. I think as well. I think it's nice to try and show a bit of personality and have a bit of fun with it. Or if you take social media too seriously, or you come across too seriously, I think you can kind of people want to find you interesting, but people are attracted to fun things, aren't they?
Yeah. But it is hard, isn't it? Because to find those, to think, what am I interested in? I don't know what I can show you, because I'm really interested in quite geeky stuff. So if I've got an evening to myself, do you know what I do? And it's nothing rude. I go and watch YouTube geeky, nerdy videos.
Oh,
so I'll go watch stuff like how to market your art, all about the new stuff that's happening in AI.
Yeah. Well, that's just reminded me. I do have an outside interest, very much another hobby, and Paul and I watch YouTube videos all the time, and it's koi keeping. We keep koi, and we have a koi pond, and we've had a lot of problems when we started. We've actually kept koi for about 15, 20, about say 18 years, and then we built a new pond and had problems ever since, really, and until we finally got everything right, and now everything's perfect and it's great. But I'll tell you what, that's a hobby you can really spend a lot of money on, as in to have these, I don't know, things you need in the pond and keep it running all lovely and keep all the water lovely. But I can't really share my koi stuff in my art page because nobody's going to be interested in that, are they? In fact,
well, they
to
might,
be honest,
you see.
Well, yeah, but to be honest, I don't think
just
there's
show the odd one.
Yeah,
show the odd one. Just feeding the koi before I start my art. You don't have to show it all the time.
I've done that before, where I've because I hand feed them, and quite often I give them mussels, and they come up.
You've done it on TikTok, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done it on TikTok, where they literally they're huge, some of these fish, and I can put my hand in and I feed them mussels, and they suck my fingers, and they let me stroke them. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love them. Every one of them's got a name and a personality. It's great. Everyone now is switching off. Thinking, what does this go on? But
why have I turned on to a koi carp podcast?
But yeah, so we watch YouTube channels on other people keeping koi
with fish.
But, people
you're boring as well.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm really boring. That's as boring as science fiction stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tie that in, isn't it? I mean, and so many people say
It
to me,
is.
"Oh, have you never thought of painting a koi?" I'm like, not really. I know I love
No.
the idea of the shiny scales and things, but it's just kind of not what I do. And yet, with the network of koi lovers I've got on my Facebook, I'd probably find it quite easy to sell something like that.
You probably would, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, tell me your goals. I need to know your goals.
Okay, so I think my goals next year are to email more people to ask, would you be interested in hanging this or showing this? Maybe email some more galleries. The gallery I'm in at the moment, it just isn't, nothing's biting. So I just think there's not a lot of point in staying in there much longer. I might as well try other places, you know.
Can you not leave one in there?
So emailing me
one in there.
Yeah, probably I could possibly do that. What I need to do is just email some galleries and ask around, see if anyone else is interested in representing me. That would be amazing. Any listeners out there that own a gallery? Yes, I'm in. just call me. Also, maybe email some publications to see if they would be interested in having a tutorial posted or something like that.
Yeah,
that I could do.
But would you want to do that
things
to
like
sell
that,
your
maybe?
art? Because that's not going to sell your art. That's more about writing.
I suppose getting your name out there a bit more as well.
Yeah, but it's getting your name out there to other
Perhaps.
artists. It depends if that's what you want.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And we've often said this about social media. Sometimes with social media with artists, you attract other artists, mainly because they want to know how you do what you do so that they can try it, and vice versa. You follow people for inspire you, and you're, how did they do that? Do you know what I mean? So it is difficult because it means you're never ever going to make sales.
Well,
from
you
those
might
people
do because artists do buy art.
Rarely.
Yeah,
but it's not as likely.
It's not
as
likely.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's trying to sell art, isn't it? And the thing is with me, I am reluctant to put money into it unless I'm earning out of it, if you know what I mean. And I know that you have to. Obviously, sometimes you have to put money
I think
in.
You have to
get out. But I don't want to do too much of that. You know, I would like to find ways of doing things without having to put so much into the outlay. I don't know whether to try Facebook ads. I'm not sure. Maybe I need to join more groups that are interested in the things I'm painting.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah, I could go on a baking
No,
group.
That's true. Yeah, you should.
But I don't want to do that and break any rules in the fact that we know, don't we? We have a group for Kicking the Creatives, and when people join, we ask them to agree to the group rules, as well as just quickly answer a couple of questions about what they do. And the reason we do that is because we don't want our group to turn into a load of people spamming. Because that's not what it's about. It's about people sharing their own journey and sketching and all that, and it's not for people to try and sell stuff. So we don't allow those kind of posts. I would not then want to go on a baking thing and then suddenly say, oh, by the way, I've just done this painting, because it's the same as what we don't allow on ours. So do you know what I mean? So it's difficult.
Yeah, but I think there's a way around that. I think you like baking now, don't you?
I do like baking.
Yeah, so you could either go on and just start, if it will let you join as Sandra Busby Art, you've at least got the thing where you can go and talk about a little bit about baking, or you can approach the admin in there and say, look, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for me to share this painting? And I will give you a small postcard print, or do you know what I mean? I will give you in exchange or something.
Yeah, that's a good. Or maybe ask them if they'd like to do a prize draw or something of a print.
Of a print, yeah.
That's a good
Anything
idea.
like that, where
it
gives them something. You're not being,
because we really appreciate when people contact us and say, "Oh, I've done this. Is it okay to share that I'm doing I'm in doing this art show or something. Would it be okay to share that? We appreciate that, don't we?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to say no. Sometimes we have to say, I'm really sorry, but we don't want to open the gates here for lots of other people. But yeah, there's nothing more frustrating. I mean, only we let people in, and we love people joining the group, but we want it to have very much of a vibe where people are on there for the right reasons, and they're all sharing and enjoying each other's company via chat and all the rest of it, and they're all sharing notes, and everyone's egging at each other on. And then you get somebody who'll be quite new to the group, and then all of a sudden they'll put a great big blog post up at where to buy their art, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I mean, it's instant removal, isn't it? Well, the trouble is we can't always see them all, so we rely on people saying when that happens sometimes. But sometimes I spot them and I just take them off because I think you're here for totally the wrong reasons. You need to be on a different type of group.
Yes, totally.
So what I don't want to do is do the very thing that annoy us on somebody else's.
No,
but
I don't. You've
either
got to go in and start becoming part of that group, so people then start getting interested in you, and or they might say, "Oh, what do you paint?" Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or maybe you should join a baking group. Then I should send you a print, and then you should say, "Oh, look at this print I've got of a cake."
Yeah,
there's a way around it.
But I would feel a bit icky doing that.
Of course. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But goals, apart from that, I suppose, getting seen more, really, getting my stuff out there a bit more. And like you, making much more of an effort with social media.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. I was with you. I was like, I'm going to do this. And then, of course, that what happened with Sherlock happened, and didn't really want to go on and do a big post about that either. It's just not what I do. So
I think we need to brainstorm things outside art, don't we, as well, that we can. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have a little challenge going on between ourselves. Funny enough, we had just started this challenge, and then Sherlock passed away, and I just had a meltdown, so I couldn't go on with that. But
I had Comic-Con as well, didn't I?
And you had Comic-Con. So what we said is, when I get back from holiday in January, we're going to start that challenge again, and it's basically going to be. We've written a whole list of things, haven't we, that we're going to try. We're going to try, and we get to pick one every week that we're going to do, 1 or 2 a week that we're going to do, and that's basically things maybe might even be out of our comfort zone a little bit. We probably should get on some more.
It's basically marketing things. Isn't it?
We need to perhaps get on some podcasts as well, other than our own, don't we? Things like that for kicking the creatives and ourselves a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah, it's difficult for me. I think it would work for you, but my art isn't really of a specific niche.
I think it's very specific.
What sort of podcast would you think I would go on?
Well, a podcast for artists.
I don't want to go on a podcast for artists because then it's sharing it with artists.
Yeah, you see, you're getting this better than I am. I keep forgetting that main rule. You want to get on something that's going to sell your art, not that's going to...
I don't mean I don't want to, because you know you can connect with other artists, but what I mean is to sell my art. It's like it would be easy if I was just painting dogs all the time, like I've done this. Yeah, and you could try and get on a dog podcast, couldn't you? You know, and talk about it. But
maybe you should get on a sci-fi one or something.
The trouble is, I don't know enough about sci-fi because although I like sci-fi, it's like the guy Stu I was next to at the Comic-Con. He knows, like, if you mention a film or a sci-fi TV program, he'd know all the characters in it, when it was started. Well, if you said to me about, say my favourite film is The Matrix, if you'd say, who are the other actors apart from Keanu Reeves? Keanu Reeves. See, I don't even know his name. Keanu Reeves. I would say, I have no idea.
No, I mean? I've never seen it.
I like the premise of it, and it was just blew my mind watching that film. But I don't know.
No, you're not a film buff at the end of the day.
Film buff, no. So I don't know any. Or same with books. I'll read a book and I think, oh God, that's amazing, but I wouldn't know who wrote it even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'd be no good getting me on a sci-fi.
Yeah. So basically, all the goals I've said then are actually useless. So I need to rethink.
No, because you said galleries.
I need to rethink what I'm going to do. But yeah, basically the main thing I'm going to do is keep painting. get
I've
a
actually just had an
series
idea
done.
for you, actually.
Ooh,
Just
go on.
literally, what about approaching a baking, cooking kind of magazine or cooking blog
Oh,
and
yeah.
say, I've just done this painting. Maybe would you like to use it to illustrate one of your blog posts and also mention that it's available as prints or something?
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Big ones, especially physical magazines.
Yeah, and
if
the
you
same with
could.
my wine paintings.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to write that on that doc.
It needs to be big ones, though. It needs to be
Yes.
not just, like a, yeah.
No, I think
Anyway,
that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. We're
divert, don't
diversing
we?
now, aren't we? Again.
Yeah.
The goals. Well, the thing we're going to do next year for Kick in the Creatives is going to be a bit different, isn't it? Because
It is.
we've covered so much stuff, and we're thinking now, what topic are we going to talk about? Because some of these things that we've covered are really quite evergreen, aren't they? So we thought, okay, why don't, instead of we do a podcast every 2 weeks, we do seasons. So next year we're going to start doing seasons, and we're going to do 3 months seasons, and then, or rather 6 episodes 3 times a year, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like, so 2 a month for 3 months, and then take a month off, and so on. I think that works out, doesn't it? We get a little bit of time off of recording, and also we get time to think of ideas because we're kind of running out, and so we urge anyone who has ideas of what they want us to talk about, please do email us, because we love hearing from you, and also we're here for you, and if you have something you want us to talk about, please tell us, and we'll do our best to try and work it into an episode, even if it's not a full episode or something, So yeah, by all means, do contact us about that.
You can email us. It's howdy, HOWDY at kickingthecreatives.com, or you can either email Sandra or me. So we just replace it with Tara at kickingthecreatives.com or Sandra at kickingthecreatives.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's time to read out the answers to the last question, and that was, describe a real-life situation that's inspired your art in some way.
And boy, did you give me the long ones.
I noticed by mistake I gave myself a long one.
Yeah, you definitely gave me more long ones.
Yeah, of course I did. You know that's going to happen.
So the first is Roving J. And by the way, Roving J is now an admin, isn't she, on our moderator in our group. Thank you so much for that. And this is because the postcard swap was just taking so much time, wasn't it? We just kind of needed a bit of help, and she offered to take that over for us. So we are so grateful for that. But anyway, she has said, I was in the UK for a visit and saw that I wasn't very far from Jo Brown. Now, Jo Brown, for anyone listening, is another huge supporter of Kicking the Creatives, and she's a regular poster on our group as well. And she's the one doing Lumpy Ladies. So she said, I direct messaged her to ask if she wanted to go urban sketching with me. We hadn't interacted before that, but I admired her sketching style. To my surprise, she agreed to meet me in Leeds for an urban sketching session. I'd been a nervous live sketcher before meeting Jo, but something about safety and numbers helped get rid of some of the trepidation of someone asking what I'm doing or looking over my shoulder as I sketched. We had so much fun. The first cafe we went into, the owner bought us coffee and was excited to have artists in his cafe. Me and Jo met up for 2 more urban sketching sessions before I left the country. I'm about a third of the way into my 365 days of urban sketching people challenge. Now I have no qualms about going out sketching alone. So I'm grateful that I met up with Jo and we gave each other some confidence. Oh yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? We haven't done for ages is go out and sketch together, and I really want to do that next year. Yeah.
Well, you said you were going to surprise me at Comic-Con and turn up.
Oh, I was. I had this thing in my head because it was over a weekend in London, and London's only an hour and 20 minutes on a train from me. And I kind of had it in my head. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to just turn up and I'm just going to sit there and bring a sandwich box and say, right, I'm keeping you company just to annoy you, really. And
do you know what I'd have done? Packed up my suitcase,
and
put it in the hotel and come out sketching with you. No, come out sketching with you.
No, we could have sat there sketching the people in the place, couldn't we? Yeah. But of course, then just a week or so, or 2 weeks before that, or no, about a week before that, I don't even know. But this is when it will happen with Sherlock, and of course, that was never going to happen after that. Not unless you wanted me to turn up, and just cry all over your prints. So yeah, that ruined that. But next year, I'd love to do that again. I really, really would. Who have you got?
Right. Well, I've got Jo Brown. She's responding to Roving Jay's post. She says exactly what Roving Jay said. Not just drawing in public either. Those sketching trips and Jay's ongoing encouragement have boosted my creative confidence in every direction. The big takeaway was realising that having fun and enjoying the process was 100% more important than getting results. I still don't sketch live much as I could. It's the weather. Yes, we know about that. But I'm completely comfortable when I do.
And the two of them are incredible sketchers. I think they are so good. So how lovely they've got to meet up. Okay, here's another long one from Kelly Penrod. I grew up thinking that being an artist meant you had to know how to draw. My 6th grade art teacher instructed me to erase the drawing of my thumb because it didn't look like a thumb. She said in front of the whole class, "You're not a Picasso. It's okay, sweetie. You don't have the talent to draw." Oh God, I literally can't believe what I'm reading here. Despite taking,
should be sacked.
Yeah, absolutely sacked. Despite taking numerous classes and learning various techniques, I couldn't find my own artistic voice. In January of 2002, while in Paris for a psychotherapy conference, my husband and I visited, now I don't know how to pronounce this, the Musée d'Orsay, the Rodin, or is it the Rodin?
Rodin, I think.
The Louvre and the Picasso Museum, all in one day. My gosh, what a day. Being in the presence of so much art, I hardly noticed my husband suffering from art burn. I sat watching with amazement a French preschool teacher instructing a dozen or so little children on the concepts of Picasso, helping the children see the faces. Then one child says something and everyone laughed. He declared in French, "Picasso as a kid." As I walked through the museum...
Is a kid. Picasso is a kid.
Sorry, yeah. Picasso is a kid. As I walked through the museum, an aha moment happened as I viewed the she-goat, which is made entirely of materials he found in a garbage dump. From the basket he used for the rib cage to the ceramic flower pots he used for the udders and various pieces of metals, all found in the garbage dump close to his home, he used to create the sculpture he later bronzed. I recognised that Picasso used play and recycled materials he gathered from the dump, exploring shapes, size, structure, and so could I. On that day, my creative muscles emerged like the Hulk. Now, I'm sorry if I didn't read that so well. It was a long one, and I'm reading it as I'm seeing it. I haven't pre-read it, so what an amazing story. And it is such a common thing that I hear and we hear of people talking about, art teachers telling them when they were at school, "Oh, you're no good," or "You're never going to be an artist."
That's terrible.
It's absolutely untrue. Anyone and everyone who wants to create art can create art.
And also, who's to say what is good and bad? And who's to say when someone is that age that they're not going to completely improve and become amazing? It's just a load of old rubbish.
It's absolutely
rubbish. Me off.
Yeah, it really angers me.
I've got another one which is exactly on the same theme. So I've got one from Darcy Arwen Lee. I, like so many others, was told, "You're not much of an artist." Yes, my 8th grade art teacher made this pronouncement to my impressionable 14-year-old self. That proclamation was determined by the fact that I didn't exactly mimic the project the entire class was trying to emulate. Clearly, the teacher felt that his art was the art. If I couldn't make what he did, then I wasn't an artist. From that point on, I took business classes at my elective and left art to those who could. Did I quit drawing, doodling, writing, painting and doing short stories? Nope. But I didn't show them to anyone. Now, 40 years later, I proudly call myself an artist. I paint, draw, create and make art. I'm leaving the administrative world of my 9 to 5 and building an art gallery / workspace called the Creative Jam. Oh, wow. I paint, I write, I draw, I create, therefore I am an artist. How much beauty and imagination was left behind because of my teenage ability to be an art Xerox machine? It's just shocking.
Yeah, and I can't help focusing on she's building an art gallery workspace called the Creative Jam. Okay,
I know.
I'm free and available to hang my stuff in there if you like.
We don't know if this is in the US.
I think
it might be we could ship it to the US.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a tall order. Doodling, painting, writing short stories, I get that. You know, if you're a creative person, you still love doing all of that. But it's so sad that you felt you couldn't show them to anybody because that person had just crushed the confidence straight from you. And 14 is such an impressionable age, isn't it? It's just
so wrong.
It's the worst age ever, isn't it? I mean, it's unbelievable. And I'm really, really glad now that you've come out the other side and you're a proud artist. You know, I think it's brilliant story. Oh, horrible, but good.
Do you know what? My art, when I was a kid, I lived here in England until I was 6. And of course did art here. And it was all very just like, go and get bits out of the creative box, be creative, make something. And it was all sort of self-led basically. And I went to America and we lived there for 2 years. And the school I was at was very strict. And basically our art there consisted of very much what she's talking about almost, where we were just given bits already cut out. Say it was like Mother's Day, that the teacher or somebody would have cut all the bits out to make a flower and we'd have to stick it together.
Oh, how boring.
I know.
So
there we go. Sorry, sidetrack everybody.
No, that's yeah.
It just depends on the teacher, doesn't it?
It does, very much so. If I was an art teacher, I'll tell you, I'd have such. Oh God, I mean, I'd almost be the creative person I wanted to be through them. I'd be like, no, use a mop. Don't use that tiny paintbrush. I'd be a
Kids
good
would get in
teacher,
trouble. They'd go in filthy, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. So I have B. Hazel Artist. I got temporarily lost in a cemetery in Nottingham the day before Halloween. I was trying to cut through it, not realising there was only one entrance/exit. It was extremely misty and atmospheric, and there were lots of crows about. It could not have been more stereotypically spooky if it tried, and I've tried to capture that otherworldly atmosphere in my art a lot since. I love atmospheres like that.
I don't think I'd have dared. If I was on my own, there's no way I'd have gone in there.
I wouldn't have gone in there on my own.
No. I got Fire Soul 19. This year, I've really enjoyed painting some of my vacation photos. I found that I feel so much more connection to memories of places if I paint scenes from them. For example, I did study abroad to Japan in college and some other trips like the Congo and a cruise to Alaska.
Oh, amazing. I wonder if she or he has ever actually sketched while there.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, because that would be another thing to try. If you like doing the photos, maybe do some sketches from life, Yeah,
let us know.
Yeah. So I've got Bev Tebow Paints. I turned 50 and felt invisible or reduced to caregiver. So I paint women with wrinkles and rolls having fun. I love that. And there are so many women in social media, particularly TikTok. I think it's definitely improving a lot now, but in magazines and on the TV, who are obviously young, beautiful, perfect skin, and all the rest of it. But I'll tell you what, when you try and paint one, it's boring. Of course, we all want to be youthful and all the rest of it, but it is boring to paint people like that who are perfect. And when you go to life drawing classes, one thing will make my heart sink, and it's if a perfect, very trim, slim young woman or man comes in, you're like, oh. When someone comes in and they've got sort of, I don't know, maybe a big belly or big cellulite bottom and chunky thighs and lumps and bumps and wrinkles on their face, it's like, oh, I can't wait to get my hands on well, not my hands on, I can't wait to get my teeth arrested. It's great, and it's so much more interesting. There's so much more interesting to draw, and of course it's real, isn't it? That's and then life is so airbrushed now, and I noticed that on TikTok a lot. I think, oh, there's lots of filters going on here, I'm sure, but actually, it's pretty it's easy to sort of, when you're painting or drawing people, to kind of feel like that's what you've got to do. And that's what I love so much about Jo Brown's Lumpy Ladies. They're blind contour, but honestly, they are probably more like real women than than the women we actually see sometimes. So carry on. I love that idea.
Okay, I think I've got our last one, which is general synopsis. I take it that's not a proper name, but we got a new puppy in August. Since then, I've been doing cartoon sketches of our adventures in my journal. Oh,
that's so nice. That's so nice.
Yeah.
So at this point, we would normally ask a new question for you, but as this drum roll, shall I get a drum roll going?
Yeah, go on then.
This is the last episode for this year. So we're going to save our next question for our first episode of the year, which will actually be in March. So we're going to start the seasons in March, and we'll do the season will go through March, April, May, and then I think then we'll be having a month off of the podcast, and then the next 3 months as well. So again, I'll ask you again, if you do have any ideas that you'd like us to do an episode on, we love to hear from you. We're always up for ideas. So what can they do in the meantime, Tara?
Meanwhile, I highly recommend that you join our Facebook group, and of course, follow us on our Instagram page, which is Kicking the Creatives.
And we hope that gave you the kick in the creatives you needed. Don't forget to pop over to our website at kickingthecreatives.com to find out how you can take part in some of our upcoming creative challenges. And of course, there you can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we would be so grateful if you would leave us a little review on iTunes, or even just a star rating if you don't have much time. And if you want to find myself or Tara online, I'm on Instagram as Sandra.Busby. My website is sandrabusbyart.com, and Facebook is Sandra Busby Artist. Tara, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is tararoscallart.com, and also on Instagram and Facebook and pretty much everywhere else as Tara Roskell Art. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to our Kicking the Creatives newsletter, where you can keep up with all the challenges and the podcast. You can do that via our website. Also, we have a course which you might want to go check out if you want to have a bit of fun creating characters and cartoons. And you can find a link to the course on our website, or go to kickingthecreatives.com/cartoon course, where you can find out more.
And if you enjoy what we do and you'd like to help support us at Kick in the Creatives, you can now support us by buying us a coffee, or on this occasion, it's going to be a Baileys for me. What about you, Tara?
Oh, God, I haven't thought. Do you know what I used to love? A snowball around Christmas.
Oh, yeah. When I was a kid, my nan used to give me those. I was only about 9.
Yeah.
That and Baby Sham.
Yeah,
God,
lovely.
yeah. So Tara's is
let's have a snowball, shall we?
Yeah, okay. We'll both have a snowball.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So our latest supporters are Laurie Zabiera. I'm so sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Hello from Manitoba, Canada. I love the Kick in the Creatives podcast. It's always inspiring, and the chemistry and humour between Tara and Sandra makes for an entertaining experience. You have me LOLing on my daily commute. Keep up the awesome content, she says.
Aww.
That's so lovely. I love the fact that we keep people company when they're doing something boring. Carol Marrero. Carol Romero. She says, thanks for all that you do. And also Joanna Brown. Thank you, Joanna. You're on there pretty much every single podcast episode. We so appreciate your continued support. If there is, if there's anyone out there that can't help us in that way, there are other things you can do. You can share our episodes with other creatives or artists and write us a nice review maybe. It all helps, and we really do appreciate any support you can give. Anyway, right now you get to enjoy a nice, peaceful few weeks without us, and we will be back on the 4th of March. Meanwhile, I guess we should say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Do you want to go out with a song, Tara?
You just stole my line.
Oh,
you just stole my line.
Well, you can say it now.
Yeah, happy Christmas, everybody, or whatever you celebrate, and we'll see you in March.
Yep. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes.